Austin, heel. Heel. Good heel. Good boy. Okay. Okay. Heel. Good morning, everyone. This is walk 13 with my service dog, Austin. Well, not actual walk 13, but walk 13 for this series. I know it's been a little while since our last walk video. It's been a rough few weeks for my CRPS. I had to go a few days without any of my maintenance medication. That was a fun week. And then had an allergy test. Didn't turn up anything useful, which was disappointing because the way the tech positioned my arms is not a position that we knew they were going to do to me. And so that was a surprise, but it was really bad because it's actually a position that my range of motion with the CRPS and my right collarbone being in the wrong position doesn't really allow for that position, and hypermobility allowed it to happen where normally it wouldn't. And an allergy test gave me a significant shoulder strain. And then I got my yearly vaccines, and that took out the other arm. So, I basically haven't had arms for a few weeks, and at least not usable arms. And while that doesn't mean, I can still walk even if my arms are flaring, but I was in enough pain that I couldn't really think or talk clearly. And while Austin is fully trained and amazing, he's still at his core level an animal. And animals make mistakes, and they have weird days. And when one or both of my arms is flaring extra, I try not to put myself in a situation with Austin where I might need to use a leash to guide him through something or give him a correction and aggravate my arms further. So I had to wait a few weeks to be able to get back to walking. But I'm a lot closer now. My shoulder's still strained, but improving. At least enough that I can go on walks. Yesterday we went on a 2-mile walk, and that's what we're aiming for again today, because they're calling for a lot of rain this week. So Austin's going to get a lot of treadmill time. And while that's not a bad thing, the treadmill is a fantastic tool. It's still, the treadmill can give Austin a really good cardio workout that I'm not able to give him, because it can let him do his endurance trotting, which is the speed that he really likes to move at. And I can't walk fast enough to let him do an endurance trot on walks. And I also can't run with him on our walks. Car passing. But the treadmill doesn't allow us a chance to work on heel or near. It doesn't allow us a chance to work on recalls or mixed training with distractions on walks or forward assist / pull work. It doesn't allow us to do cart walks, which hopefully I'm going to ramp back up once my arms recover so we can help this winter. And much like yesterday, I woke up today and thought, I'm going to ride the bike so Austin can run on the treadmill. And then this cute face came to me and put his head in my lap and wagged his tail, and I thought, okay, we'll go for a walk. So here we are. We are going to a conference this fall, which is really exciting because it's dedicated to CRPS. So it's exactly where Disabled Advantage needs to be. I've had trouble finding good events for Disabled Advantage to attend because I just don't really fit in most places. Being a more unique specialized service, and then also a lot of people want me to be the one training the dog and giving it to them, and I just can't do that because of my disability. And also personally, I'm sure there are people working with program dogs who have CRPS, but personally, I believe the best way is the best benefit, and the best way for the dog to learn is for the owner with CRPS to train the dog. That is not always possible because, hey, we're disabled. But you know, a lot of people want me to be one thing, and I'm just not that thing. So we're excited about that conference. We're probably going to run into other service animals there, and I genuinely hope that they are legit service animals. But there are a lot of people, well-intentioned and not well-intentioned, who do try to take their dog everywhere. And I really, really hope that what we're going to encounter at a CRPS conference are all legit service dogs. I really want to believe that. But there are more and more videos surfacing that show service dogs that are questionable. Is this real? Is this not real? And then, you know, reading comments that people leave of like, oh, well, clearly it's not a service dog because XYZ. And so I figured today's walk could be my insight onto a lot of different things regarding that topic. So what I'm going to cover is how I usually recommend that people tell if a service animal is a service animal, and some common misconceptions people have about service animals, and also touch on the drawbacks of pure positive training with service dogs, especially with people who have CRPS and other types of disabilities that impact pain levels and fatigue levels. While we're on our walk today, Austin is doing heel for the roadways, and then we'll switch him to forward assist on the gravel. That will help me manage the hills, and it will also help me maintain my balance on gravel because it gives me just a little bit better traction as I walk. The weird green thing on his back is a small water bowl. If he gets thirsty on our walk, my hands are too tiny for him to drink from. He likes having a bowl, so I remembered that today. Okay, so service dogs. Well, we'll start with one that I have heard personally. Whenever we were first training Robbie, not this one, the other one, one of our friends tried to question Robbie's validity because they were over visiting with us and Robbie was essentially naked. He just had a collar on, that was it. And one of the things about CRPS service dogs is that they have very flexible, very varied work times. And so, like, especially when we're at home, my rule for my dogs is that you're working if I ask you to do a task, but then you're off duty. And I train them that way until they understand it. Stop. Good boy. My dogs very rarely wear gear at home because, one, I don't need it, and two, it's just extra. Go. Release. Too fast. But okay, I was trying to look for a way that wouldn't involve me holding my phone, and I can't get the rig to work properly. So I guess that's what I'm doing today. My dogs rarely wear gear at home. This is Austin's off-duty harness. He understands that he's essentially off-duty right now, but also that if there's tension on this, that he's semi-working, semi-off-duty. He can smell things, but if I give him a command or I tell him, please stop sniffing things, please keep walking forward, he's going to listen, he's going to do that. If I were to call him to his assistance position, he would switch back into work mode. And sometimes he arbitrarily switches back into work mode when he can tell that I'm doing unwell. But for the most part, my dogs don't wear gear in the house unless I've, sprained my ankle, sprained my knee, whatever. But we were hanging out with this friend, and I was letting her pet Robbie because Robbie was off duty. I was sitting in a chair. I didn't need any task work. I was fine. And she tried to say, well, how is Robbie a real service dog? Because, I have a friend with a seizure dog, and you're never allowed to pet that dog. And I tried to explain that different teams have different rules. So, because my dogs are primarily balance assist dogs, I don't need them to be on all the time to constantly be ready to alert to a medical episode. So, yeah, sometimes I do let friends and family pet my dog. Or if we're at an event, I might let a little kid who asks really politely, I might let them interact with my service dog in a really controlled manner and use it as an opportunity to educate about service animals. That is a personal choice that my team made. It doesn't mean my dog isn't a service animal. It's just a personal choice I made as a handler. So, when you see service animals in public, there are the big things that everybody universally agrees on. And by everybody, I mean quite literally, the Americans with Disabilities Act has written in that the dog needs to be under control by voice or by gear. The dog cannot be out of control, cannot be barking, cannot be lunging, cannot be biting people, and needs to be house trained, so it's not going to the bathroom in stores. Assistance Dogs International has a similar list of etiquette rules. Assistance Dogs International is an organization. It's not a law, but it's a guiding principle that good teams follow. So if you see a service dog who is out in public, who's barking a lot, just nonstop barking, growling at other dogs or people or random things on the shelf, who's either on a flexi leash, a long leash, or off leash, and invading people's space, running around frantically, etc., those are probably not real service dogs. Now, where it gets weird and confusing is that service dogs are allowed to be off leash. Service dogs are allowed to work on a flexi lead. Service dogs are allowed to work on a long line if it helps with the ability to do their job. So someone in a wheelchair might benefit from a dog on a flexi lead or a dog off leash because it allows the dog to leave them, go press a button to open the door to make it easier for the person in the wheelchair or with a different type of mobility aid to walk through the door more readily, or to, go a distance away to pick up something that was dropped and then return to the handler. But what is the major difference there is that the dog's doing it in a very, very controlled, focused manner. The dog is not bothered by distractions. The dog goes, does its mission, and returns to its handler. And it doesn't give off the vibe of chaos. So if you see a dog wearing a service vest and or a badge or a bandana or a collar or whatever, but that dog looks like something you'd find in a dog park, chaos, jumping, barking, growling, probably a fake service dog. Now, again, there are exceptions. So, a lot of people think service dogs pop out and don't make mistakes. That is incorrect. While the Americans with Disabilities Act doesn't offer public access rights to a disabled person with an in-training service dog, select states and local jurisdictions do. And so in that case, state law kind of overrides federal law for a little bit, and because it offers more protection to the disabled party and more rights. And so we're able to take in-training dogs in public. And in-training dogs, first of all, full service dogs, still going to make mistakes. They're going to be really small mistakes. You guys will not notice them. But in-training service dogs do tend to make a lot of mistakes. They might be more energetic. They might lose their cool. This one used to happy warble when he'd do retrieve in public. And so I made sure to practice retrieve in public at pet-friendly stores. So if it happened, it was easier to brush it off. Because it would make me really subconscious. Most service dog teams who are owner training do genuinely get embarrassed when our dogs make mistakes. We're trying so hard to put out a good impression and a good public image that when our dogs make mistakes, we're actively doing something to work with our dog and change the mistake, teach the dog a better way to act in public, or give them a correction to let them know that that's not okay to do in public, and things like that. And so that's another way to tell. If it looks like the handler's actively working with their dog, actively trying to train it, they're looking at the dog, they're using a leash, they're guiding them through something, they're giving them corrections, they're focused on their dog's behavior. That may just be a dog who's in training and learning what to do with life as a service dog. So don't just look at the dog, look at the person too. If the person is oblivious to the dog's behavior, possibly a fake service dog. The other thing to look at is, because the Americans with Disabilities Act doesn't require gear, things get sticky. Let's go with that. I use gear because I need it for a lot of my tasks. But some dogs don't like wearing harnesses or vests. They just don't like the feel of it. That's fine. Some handlers don't need it. Some handlers can't afford it. And some handlers, like, I actually tell my clients to wait on the fancy gear until we're sure that this dog is going to stick as a service animal, and in the meantime to just use leash wraps or bandanas. A popular thing my clients like to do is put leash wraps on the dog's car harness because it just makes everything easier. But there are some people who want to work their dog in just a collar and a leash, and that's their prerogative. That's their right. It's not the dog's right, it's the handler's right. And then you're looking at the dog's behavior, how the dog is acting in public, how the dog's responding to distractions. The dog should look really bored. It's a mix between bored and focused on their handler. That's what a service dog usually looks like in public, is either bored or focused on their handler. They're ignoring distractions. They're not stealing stuff off of shelves. They're not running around crazily. Good boy. They're... Release. Let's go this way. If they're I lost my train of thought completely. If another dog passes them, they sort of casually look at it and then look away again. Dogs who are working on dog neutrality might whine briefly, get a correction or a distraction from their handler, and then go back to working. But it shouldn't be like, oh my gosh, friend. Now, with that in mind though, there are some dogs who struggle super hard with dog neutrality, meaning they just want to play with every dog that they see. Let's go. Star. Good. And there have been times where Austin has, mainly at like parks or outdoor fairs, momentarily forgotten he's working when he sees a dog and thinks, oh my gosh, I should be friends with that dog. And he gets a really strong correction. And then we work on ignoring dogs for the next 15 minutes. Because his dog neutrality is just not the best at all. And I'm aware of it, and it's an ongoing problem. But where we live, there just aren't dogs. But if you see that happen to my team, I'm actively working on it. I'm not just ignoring it, and I'm not letting him break formation to go say hi to whatever dog he wanted to go say hi to. But that's an example of, a trained service dog making mistakes. And a lot of people, so he keeps getting corrections because he keeps trying to go in really tall grass, and I don't want him to because there's foxtails and he doesn't have his goggles on, and I don't know what's in the tall grass, just all of the things. Austin, let's go. So a lot of people want to, it's easy to say if a dog has a cheap looking harness and an ID badge that they're for sure a fake service dog. And I don't necessarily completely disagree with that statement, because there are websites that offer fake registration or certification, and they give you a $60 vest and an ID badge to look real. And if someone has knowingly gone to one of those websites and knows that registration and certification are scams, and knows that their dog is not a service dog, but just wants to take them in public because of the dog comforts them, or they want to take their dog everywhere, or the dog has severe anxiety and has to go everywhere with them, which no is not the way to handle that, then yes, those people are faking a service dog. Those people are in the wrong, and that's a bad situation. It's dangerous for real teams. However, there's so much misinformation in the world about what makes a service dog, what doesn't make a service dog, and the scam websites look convincing. And I can believe that someone with a disability, or someone who wants to take their dog everywhere and doesn't understand that it's wrong, if they're not a service animal, might go to that site, get a vest, get papers, get an ID badge, and put it on their very real service dog, or put it on their not real service dog but not think they're doing anything wrong, and go about their life. So the people who don't realize they're in the wrong, you're in the wrong. Under federal law, you need to, in the U.S., be very clear about that, in the U.S., you need to have a disability in order to work with a service animal. And a disability goes beyond needing comfort. It's things like disabilities that impact your mobility, or psychiatric disorders like severe anxiety and PTSD, and neurological disorders that kind of throw a net across all of the crap. Things that a dog can actively do to help you mitigate your disability. So alerting to diabetic episode, alerting to a seizure, alerting to a migraine before it happens, bringing you medication during a medical episode, helping you brace to stand up, helping you walk more stably, preventing falls, helping you after a fall, finding human help, opening doors, bringing you your mobility aid, picking up things you dropped. Things like that are all actual tasks that a dog is actively trained to do to help someone. They are different than comfort. Does Austin provide me with comfort? Yes. I say that slowly because working with a service dog is also not the most relaxing gig. I'm constantly worried about him being attacked by rogue dogs in public, or him being run over by people not paying attention to where they're going. And I have to keep a good pulse on his health and his well-being, and keeping him strong and keeping me strong, because it's a symbiotic relationship working with a service dog. And so yes, he brings me comfort, but it's also not, like, it's more relaxing working with a well-trained dog than an untrained dog, but it's also not, it would actually be nice if I didn't have to take my dog everywhere. But I do, because I'm disabled and I need his help. And he helps me better than people can. He helps me in a safer way than people can. But there are people who buy these vests and buy these badges who want the dog to look legit, because They don't have confidence in their team, they don't have confidence in their training, or they think that that's the right thing to do. And that's where it gets weird, because people see them in public, and like, if the dog's really well trained or the dog's learning and you see the handler actively working with the dog, but it's wearing an ID badge, is it real? Is it fake? Is it just someone who thought they were doing the right thing? So I'd caution people from jumping to conclusions is part of that. And then ultimately, yeah, you have to look at the dog's behavior overall. If the dog is severely stressed out and the handler's doing nothing about it, that might be a sign. But also, sometimes the dog just has to deal with the stress to work through it to the other side, and so it gets weird. Like, there's some things you can't really train a dog for until you're in the situation. There's sometimes you can get creative about it. But it is hard to know. It's not black and white. And I don't know that it wouldn't benefit people for there to be strict rules, because then a lot of people, like myself even, wouldn't be able to own or train a dog anymore, which would be a tragedy. There would be a lot of people who could benefit from a service dog who aren't able to work with one. But the biggest thing is to look at how the dog is acting and how the handler is acting in response to the dog. And if the dog is being disruptive to other people and things around it. So there was a time when, Austin, let's go. There was a time when Robbie went through a phase where he got weird about restaurants. He heard a weird sound and it stressed him out, and I handled it wrong, and then he developed a phobia of restaurants. We had to redo his restaurant training, but that's really hard because it meant taking a dog who we knew was going to look stressed out into a public place. And so we picked places that, you know, we went a lot and were pretty familiar with us, and we would just stay there for like an hour or 2 hours, and we would just kind of let him pant and sort it out under the table until he fell asleep. We'd stay there for a little bit longer, and then we'd leave. And that helped retrain his brain, work him through the stress, and he was fine. We also did a lot of other like exercises outside of the restaurant and going in and out of the doors and stuff like that. Austin, front. Good boy. Oh, that's the wrong leash. But while Robbie was sorting out his marbles in the restaurant under the table, all he was doing was panting. Sorry. All he was doing was panting. He wasn't like bolting around the restaurant. He wasn't whining. He wasn't barking. He wasn't throwing up. He wasn't drooling. He wasn't He wasn't being a disruption to the other people. Go. He was just laying under the table. Occasionally he'd break command, and I'd put him back down very calmly, and then we'd continue letting him work it out in his brain and wait for him to fall asleep. So if it looks like that, it's probably a training session. But if the dog is bolting out from underneath the table, shaking violently, drooling, throwing up, nervous peeing, nervous pooping, jumping on people, making a lot of noise, running around, making its presence very loudly known, basically, then even if it is a real service dog, that handler needs to leave, go work on training, and then come back. Or it's not a real service dog. But the important thing I'm trying to stress here is that it can be hard to tell, because there's so many people getting mixed information about what's right and what's wrong. There's a lot of judgment on social media. a lot of harsh comments, a lot of people who think they have all the answers or think they know all the things. They don't. I don't even know all of the things. I'm always learning. I like to think that's what makes me a good trainer, is that I'm willing to admit that I'm still learning stuff. Good trainers keep the brains open. When you see a dog and you're not sure, try talking to the handler. There are a lot of handlers who don't want to answer questions, and they'll be brusque. But I like to think the good handlers are going to be willing to answer the base questions. Is that a service animal required because of a disability? What work has it been trained to do? People who fumble around, get really overdramatic, refuse to answer any questions because they don't have to by law. Wrong, they do. Or, he's for comfort. Okay, not a service dog. But there are a lot of teams who just don't want to be bothered. I get that. So I don't want to tell you to go, harass every service dog handler you see. Okay, best advice. Calmly observe from a distance. Determine if that dog is a threat to you and your team or your personal safety. If you think it's a problem, if you see that it's causing a problem, quietly go talk to a store manager. If you have an ADA card on you, give it to them. Let them know what their rights are as a business owner. Remind them that they do indeed have the right to kick out a dog who's being chaotic, even if it is a real service animal. If it's chaotic, it can be asked to leave. The handler still needs to be accommodated somehow, but the dog can be asked to go someplace else. The dog doesn't have rights. We do. As disabled people, we have the rights, not the dog. But, be compassionate. There are people who genuinely don't know that an ID badge is hurting other teams or hurting themselves. It's hard to know who to trust for good information. I can tell you that Disabled Advantage is a good resource to trust for good information about service animals, but, honestly, so can other people. I have done my research into the laws. I am a service dog trainer. I actively work with a service dog. I spread correct information and advocate for awareness and education about service dogs. I would encourage you to look at my content and determine if you can trust me based on that. Go to my website, read my testimonials, watch session clips, and then make an informed decision yourself about if you think I'm trustworthy. Another comment I've been seeing a lot is that if a dog is wearing something like a prong collar or an e-collar or a chain collar, then obviously they're not a service dog because they're using a corrective tool. I feel really bad for the dogs who live with people who believe that their dog has to be perfect all the goddamn time. Because when you take away corrective tools and when you say that you can't say no to your dog, that's what you're doing, is you are either expecting your dog to do no wrong and to never make mistakes, to always be perfect, or you are living in a fantasy land where it is okay if your dog is a destructive jerk because it's just them being them. And, people may not want to come to your house. Damn it, Austin. Mistake. Right there. Also, so skilled, buddy. But you know what? You can go get that for me. Austin, find. Good, good, good. Good, good, good. Yes. Good find. Give. Thank you. Good job, buddy. Okay. Great example. Dog on a long line. Oh, you broke the carabiner. It's the problem with cheap carabiners. Okay. Well, I'll just put that in here. Thank you for retrieving that, buddy. I love that. I mean, it's annoying that it came off of his harness, but I love that he watched it and watched where it went and then was like, can I go get it? And went and got it. That was so nice. Robbie never would have done that. Robbie was a service dog. He just retrieve was not his first instinct. He didn't love doing it. Austin loves retrieve. Super handy. Anyways. So, right, corrective tools. And that wasn't really like, Austin didn't get a correction there because he shook and the carabiner flew off and then he got the thing and he handed it to me and it was fine. It wasn't really a mistake. It was just like a thing that happens. But occasionally he will make a mistake. Earlier he kept trying to go into taller grass. I didn't want him to because of potential dangers. So I said, there are people in the... And there's like different flavors of them, just like there's different flavors of balance trainers. Austin, star. Good boy. Just like there's different flavors of balance trainers, there's different flavors of pure positive trainers. But there's a growing movement of pure positive, force-free, aversive-free, oh crap, what's it called? Brain fog is getting me. But the trainers who, you know, ask the dog's permission to put on a vest or ask the dog's permission to do their claws or whatever. That's a growing movement. And a lot of people think service dog training has to fit in that box. Because the biggest argument I've heard kicked around is that if you use corrections with a dog or if you use aversive tools like prong collar, slip collar, e-collar, etc., that you're going to ruin the dog. The dog's not going to want to do tasks. The dog's not going to want to work for you. You're going to make the dog sad. And that's just not true. What you're going to do is you're going to give the dog clarity on understanding their job better. Austin, go. Good, go. Say no using aversive tools correctly, mind you. So getting the training on how to use them correctly. Go. Gives the dog clarity on what their job is. It's like if you had a job and if your boss never gave you any sort of feedback on, that report was written well, but next time can you do this? That's feedback. And some people take that feedback in stride. Other people perceive that feedback as, oh my God, I failed. But it's just feedback, and it gives you clarity on improving job performance. That's what aversives do with service dogs. Actually, that's what aversives do with all dogs, frankly, but we're talking about service dogs right now. So, 1, if you see a service dog wearing an e-collar, chain collar, prong collar, whatever, do not assume it is not a service dog because it's wearing a corrective tool. Okay? Those tools are used for communicating with our dogs, communicating that they made a mistake, or communicating that something isn't okay to do in public, like whining or barking, and communicating guidance, directional cues. Please turn left, please turn right, please stop moving, and reminding the dog of commands if they're having an off day or if they're still learning. And like personally, Austin's wearing a chain collar right now. You can't see it because he's so fluffy, but he is wearing it. He's also wearing an e-collar. He's wearing the chain collar because it's what I use for guidance and corrections when he needs them. Yes, he's a fully trained service dog, but he still makes mistakes. He misses a cue, or, has a mental off day, or needs guidance if we're learning something new. That's what the chain collar helps me do. Good boy. The e-collar, when we take off leash walks, Stan, is for maintaining positive control of him, communicating with him if he gets too far away. I use the vibrate function as a recall if I can't talk or if I need his assistance really quickly. Port. Stop. Good. In public, the e-collar is used to, if he starts whining in public or he gets too excited about a task, the e-collar is used, to remind him not to make noise in public. It's not used at such a level that he screams or shuts down or any of that stuff. It's just a very gentle kind of tap on the shoulder reminder to not do something. My clients really like prong collars because, and I really like using them as well. I just don't use it as my primary collar unless we're in a really crowded environment, like a high distraction zone, or I have to use it with cart work because Austin tries to go really fast when he pulls the cart because he loves it so much. And the prong collar is the only collar that helps me get through to him that he needs to slow down. And it's not because I'm like holding him back. It's just like a little bit of a stronger, helps me break through the happy to be like, hello, I'm still here. We are not galloping in this. This is not chariot racing. But the prong collar is great because it doesn't take a lot of muscle strength to communicate to the dog that you want them to stop doing something, or they made a mistake, or guiding them into a sit, guiding them into a down, guiding them over a confidence object, things like that. Because of how it sits on the dog's neck and because of the fingers that go through the dog's fur to make contact with them, it takes very little. You can just kind of like tap your fingers and the dog feels it. And if you've taught them what the prong collar means and how to respond to it, which is key with any tool that you use, then it does help the training process. So if you see a tool like that on a service dog, please do not jump to conclusions that that is not a service dog. It is perfectly acceptable for people with disabilities to be allowed to communicate with their dog and to say no to their dog. We've got a car passing and we're going over a hill, so I'm going to pause for a second. Good boy. One of the most dangerous and cruelest things that I see is people forcing this idea on people with disabilities that they cannot say no to their dog. Because if you're a healthy person and you want to get dragged around by your dog, fine. But as someone with a disability, what that would look like for me if I thought I couldn't say no to Austin because it would ruin him for service dog work, I'm not sure I would have survived training him. And I'm not exaggerating. He used to jump on me. He used to mouth on my arms and rake his teeth across my arms. When he ate treats, he ate all of my fingers with them. He, on walks, he would pull straight ahead until he got a good smell or he saw a butterfly, and then he would dart that way all of a sudden, or he would dart that way all of a sudden. And it used to be that when he saw cars, he would spin around beside us and slam his body into me, trying to watch the car. And if I had never said no, I would have just had to weather all of those things until they stopped and hoped that they stopped. I would have been in such horrible pain that I probably wouldn't have been able to finish training him. And sure, I could have used treats, but the way he took treats from me and the way he expected me to give him treats meant that if I didn't give him treats fast enough, he was beating me with his paws. He was clawing at my skin. And this is someone who lives with a condition where freaking hugs hurt. I probably would have returned Austin because he wouldn't have been safe for me. I would have been in danger all the time. Now, I was still somewhat in danger, but because I knew that it would be okay to say no to him, that it would be okay to use a prong collar correctly and a chain collar correctly and an e-collar correctly, that it wouldn't burn out his drive to work. Obviously, y'all just saw it when he got that bowl for me. I was able to develop a communication system with him, teach him clarity, what I needed from him, how I needed him to do it, and teach him how to work with me in a way that didn't destroy my body and didn't destroy my pain levels. So all of these owner trainers who are being fed straight up lies, first of all, I worry for your safety. And the people who get a program dog who maybe has been taught some great tasks but doesn't know how gentle they need to be with you. Maybe they rush past your legs too closely, or they jump on you when you don't give them a treat fast enough. All those little things that nobody else thinks about, but that are causing very real pain flares for you. Program dogs, a lot of times they're sent home in flat collars or head halties, and they're just expected to either not make mistakes, or you just ignore the mistakes until they land on the right answer, and then they get a treat. And that kind of training for people who have disabilities that cause pain, or disabilities with fatigue, just keep your arm in that position until the dog does the thing and you can give them the treat. One, that's exhausting for healthy people, but for people with disabilities, that means you can't use your arm for the rest of the day. Where if you've just used an aversive tool and a leash, it could have been done in 5 seconds, not 45 seconds. And it does make a difference. It does matter. And it is dangerous. So, no, I don't believe that service dogs have to be trained with pure positive methods. I don't. My dogs love their job. My clients' dogs love their job. It provides clarity. It helps your dog know what's going on and not be confused, and it keeps you safer. When you're out in public, unless a dog is directly a threat, I know it sucks. I don't agree with people faking a service dog at all. It's dangerous. But unless the dog is posing a direct threat to your team or the store or other people, unless you know the laws, you're able to go find a store manager, talk to them, let them handle it because it's their store. Don't assume you know everything. Learn as much as you can about service animals. But also be open to the idea that, you know, some teams train with treats. That's their choice. That's what works for them. That's fine. Some teams train with aversive tools. I train with both treats and aversive tools. Sometimes treats are better. Sometimes aversive tools are better. Really depends on the situation and the dog. But also, chiefly, I make sure my dogs take treats really politely. That's included in the training. Same for my clients. Learn what you can. Try not to jump to snap judgments of other teams. The more you learn about training, the more you learn about service animals, the more you try to learn about the laws. They're dense, I know, but try. The better picture you can form in your mind, and the better equipped you'll be to educate people on what a real service dog is versus what a fake service dog is. The way to determine if a dog is a real service animal or not is its behavior, how it's acting, how professional it acts, if it acts like it's doing a job that it takes seriously, and what the handler is doing. My dogs don't look at me all the time because it throws them off balance for when I ask for balance assistance. But when we're working in public, we look professional. We give off a professional vibe. I've usually always got him on leash. If he's working off leash, I'm every few strides flicking my eyes down at him to make sure he's still where he needs to be and talking to him. And we're both acting professional. Now, I don't have a visible disability that you guys can see. Release. I don't have a visible disability, and he's not constantly staring at me. A lot of times in public, he just looks like he's laying beside me until I stand up. And then he does a bracing task, helps me stand up, might be helping me walk around one day. That task varies from day to day. Like today, I was able to walk 2 miles. I didn't need to hold on to him. But he was doing forward assist that helped me keep moving forward steadily, which was very helpful, especially going up and down hills. And he does retrieve. Most of his tasks he does at home, but that doesn't mean that I don't need him in public. A lot of flares happen in public all of a sudden, like Austin, leave it. Good, leave it. I think you found like a cricket or grasshopper. A lot of flares happen all of a sudden in public. You know, I get really dizzy, or I lose my balance, or I get a sudden bolt of pain and need to brace on him all of a sudden. Or I get separated from who I'm shopping with and I need him to go find those people or find a chair for me to sit down on and rest. And those might be tasks that you only see if you're like stalking my team, which please don't. That's creepy. Don't stalk any team, honestly. It's creepy, it's weird, and we're probably going to report you to a store manager or something. Or, you know, on our worst day, we might confront you. It's weird, don't do it. Also, please don't take video or photos of our team. We're not there for your entertainment. But you might not see a service dog act actively working. Like, they're not a party animal. They're not just constantly doing tricks all day long. But they're there when we need them. And so even if it looks like they're just sleeping, even if it looks like they're just walking beside us, even if it looks like they're just sitting beside us, they're working. They're waiting for a cue. They're waiting for a sign that we need assistance. This dog knows when I need to sit down. He sees my legs shake before I feel my legs shake. He knows when I can't do something. I tried to go out for a walk 2 weeks ago and he took me home. He tried to make me go home about 5 times before I listened to him. On the 6th time, I let him take me home. How do I know this? He kept turning around and going home and refusing to go forward. But that's something that nobody else saw except for me, because I was there feeling it. So this dog knows things because he was trained by me. He knows what his job is. His job goes beyond being a dog and comforting me. His job is very specific things to mitigate my disability, and that's what makes him a service dog. Whether you think he's actively doing something when you see him or not. I hope this video has provided clarity. It definitely gave you feedback to help offer clarity, which is similar to saying no to a dog. So let's keep that in mind. Quick update also, I will try to keep doing walk videos, but as it gets colder, I have to put on more clothes, and I don't know if you'll be able to hear me talking, but we'll see how it goes. Thank you for watching this very long video of Austin walking to the lake and back and learning about what a service dog looks like or doesn't look like in public, and a quick word on aversive tools and peer positive training when it comes to the safety of individuals with disabilities. Follow me and subscribe for more videos. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram. And if you're interested in getting assistance training a CRPS service dog for yourself, or training an incredibly gentle dog for you while you live with CRPS or chronic pain, please send me a message, or you can book a starter session directly through my website on the contact page.